Hi everybody, how we doing? So I've been seeing a lot of information circling around the internet. I know that we're living in extremely controversial times right now. Everybody has an opinion, everybody's saying, do this, do that, and really everything's just all over the place. And I have been seeing so much information on like, oh, we should just get another bailout. We should get more stimulus packages. Don't open. Yes, open. Information is just all over the place. And I saw something today that really kind of got me thinking, where somebody said, well, we should just continue to get stimulus packages and stay closed, and that's how it should go. And I felt like, as an educator, the least that I could do is at least provide some information on, is a bailout the solution? Now, I'm not telling anybody what to decide. I'm not telling you that you should say yes or say no. But I think that a lot of people really don't understand exactly how this system works, where the money's coming from, and a lot of small businesses are being impacted, and I think that if you see kind of where this bailout money is coming from, how do we get it, how is it going to be paid back, then I think maybe you can make your own decisions on whether we think, is it really the solution to continue to ask for more bailouts and more bailouts and more bailouts. So, I don't know. You decide for yourself. The information that I got is from PBS. PBS, if you don't know already, is a very valid educational site. Has been used for who even knows how long. And eventually I can send a video. So all the information that I got was from PBS. So here's how this works. You have two systems. You have the Department of Treasury, and then you have the Reserve. So what happens is you have the Department of Treasury borrows money. Okay, so the Department of Treasury borrows money, and then what happens is the Federal Reserve creates that money, okay, because the money's not just lying around. The Treasury first borrows it, and then the Reserve creates it. Okay, so Treasury borrows, Reserve creates, okay? So way back a long time ago, we used to have money in forms of coins, gold, silver, etc. Okay, so eventually, as we started to trade with other people, those coins were either hard to work with or they weren't really seen as valuable. So what happened is we had what's called the Industrial Revolution. Some of you, if you're educated enough, you might know what that is. Factories started going up all over the place. We had textiles, we had all sorts of different things that all of a sudden people were like, hey, I really want that. So the demand to purchase things became higher, and we really needed something else. Okay, so those coins, the value of those coins started to decrease, and that's where the birth of the paper dollar really came out. Okay, so that's where the whole paper money, and we're like, here we go, I'm going to give you this paper dollar in exchange for those lovely textiles that you just made, or whatever it is that, those products that came out during the Industrial Revolution. Okay, fast forward to right now. Okay, so we have two different types of system. We have money that's in circulation right now, so out in the world, sprinkled about, okay? So in circulation, so that's like physical paper money that you can see out and about in the world, okay? So right now we have about $1 trillion, according to PBS. Then we also have the Federal Reserve, okay? So in the Federal Reserve, we also have about another $1 trillion. Okay, so Federal Reserve is just digital money. It's not actual physical paper money, okay? So what we do is, if it's paper money, it's called minted money. If it's digital money, it's money that's kept in the Federal Reserve, okay? So when you deposit your money into your bank account, or you get a loan or whatever, those monies are transferred through a digital transaction, Federal Reserve, okay? So then the question becomes like, well, how exactly are we getting this money? Because some people are saying comments like, oh, we pay into these taxes. So people think that this is money that we paid into, so we're just getting back the money that we paid into. Well, let's see, is this how it's really working? Well, according to BBS, what's happening is the U.S. government is actually borrowing the money, okay? So what happens is we have investors. Everybody knows what an investor is. Somebody gives their money and they expect something in return, right? Okay, in case if you didn't know what an investor was. So investors are taking their money and they're putting it into something specific. What? They're putting into the U.S. Treasury, okay? So U.S. Treasury does collect taxes, so you're partially right on that. And then what happens? If we're short, we didn't collect enough taxes, then all of a sudden we have a deficit. A deficit means that we spent too much money and now we owe money. So what the U.S. government does is it actually sells bonds to investors. These are foreign investors, okay? So investors, foreign investors means people from other countries. They want to buy bonds of the U.S. Treasury, okay? So what happens is the U.S. Government sells bonds to investors from the U.S. Treasury, okay? So U.S. Treasury borrows money from foreign investors. Okay, and that's done through the use of selling bonds from the U.S. Treasury. Sometimes there's a interest rate on that, sometimes there's not, depending on the situation, okay? So as of right now, here's what we're looking at just from this year alone, okay? So you following me? Treasury borrows money, the Reserve creates it. In circulation, $1 trillion in paper bills, $1 trillion in Federal Reserve, okay? So where is the government getting the money from the bailout? Well, they are asking foreign investors to invest by buying bonds from the U.S. Treasury, okay? So how much money have we asked for so far this year? So this year alone, now I don't know anything about past history, I'm just going on this year alone, we had 1.5 trillion was requested just for a budget deficit. Sorry, didn't spell it right. Budget deficit and TARP. Okay, so you can look those two things up. $1.5 trillion in budget deficit and TARP this year alone. Then, this whole epidemic happened, and then they borrowed another $800 billion for the bailout. Okay, so we've got $1.5 trillion, and then we have another $800 billion. Okay, these are borrowed monies. So when they're borrowed, that means that the U.S. government still has to pay them back. So a lot of people are saying, oh, this is money that we don't have to pay back. Well, yes, we do, because we borrowed it. So it's going to be paid back somehow. So maybe that $1,200 stimulus check that you're getting, you personally might not have to pay that back out of your pocket. But there's going to be a way where we're going to have to pay that back somehow, and that might be through inflation or some other way, okay? So What the fear is now is that if there's too much money in circulation, okay, there's too much money floating around, then that's going to lead to inflation. Right now, what they're saying is that we have all this money floating around and nobody's spending it. Well, there's a couple of reasons why no one's spending it. One, because no one actually has any money because, well, your jobs are all closed and no one has paychecks. So how are you going to spend money that you don't have? So right now what you're seeing is deflation, right? Those gas prices are going down. Everything's cheaper because people are not spending that money. So the prices are going down. But what we might see is that once people are able to get back out into the economy and start spending money again, we might see those inflations and what's even called hyperinflation. And you can see examples of hyperinflation. Just go online, Google hyperinflation. There's other countries where they saw barrels full of money, where the value of the dollar is going to drop so much that it literally is worthless. You can just burn it for your fuel in some countries, as they were doing before, because if you have hyperinflation because of all these things that you had to do, it's just like this never-ending cycle that is quite frankly detrimental to this economy. So do we really want hyperinflation to happen? Well, that's up for you to decide. So right now we're all like, yay, so exciting, gas prices are down, woo! It's because right now we have all this, you know, minted money, as they call it, out in circulation, but nobody's spending it, okay? So it's leading to temporary deflation. But once everything goes back in, we are really at a risk of having hyperinflation, okay? Because that money has to get paid back somewhere. Remember those, that $1.5 trillion and that $8 billion, and they're talking about another bailout for who knows how much. Those are borrowed monies. We still have to pay them back somehow. That money has to get repaid. Those investors, they're called investors for a reason, because they want a return on their money. People aren't going to invest in something without getting a return back, okay? So sometimes it's with an interest rate and sometimes it's not. But this money was borrowed. It wasn't given to us. It's not from the money that you paid in taxes. So we still have to pay those foreign investors back for all this money that we borrowed just from this year alone. So I don't really have the answers. I'm not an economist. That's not my job. I'm just a teacher. But I don't really know that continuing to ask for more bailouts and more bailouts and more bailouts and more bailouts is the solution. Let me know what you guys think. I'm just kind of putting this out here, and I can send you the link to PBS with the video. You can watch it for yourself. And everyone's free to make their own judgments and their own opinions. I just don't know if asking for more stimulus and more bailout is the answer, because apparently I see a lot of people doing that. I think that if you want to stay home, that's your right. You should absolutely do that. I think that if you want to go to work because your family needs it, you should absolutely be able to do that. This used to be a free country, last time I checked.